big a challenge is it when you're out there, aside from the quarterback, where there were, by the end of the game, there were 6 starters from opening day on offense not on the field. How big a challenge is that?
I think that's the nature of this business. It's the nature of the NFL. Injuries are a big part of the league, unfortunately. So it's next man up. We got to have those guys ready to play. They need to have themselves ready to play. That's always going to be true. I think it's something we're going to deal with year in and year out in the NFL.
What's your plan, or what's your hopes for the offensive line? I know you can't do injury talk with us, but in a roundabout way, like, do you feel like you'll have enough protection for Kyler, even if you go 8-man front?
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, the 5 people we're going to put out there, we're going to feel good about. Certainly, I wish everyone was healthy. You're always going to wish that. But I feel very confident in whoever's asked to go out there on Sunday, they can get the job done.
Did you get enough? Did you get to see enough out of Clayton to get a sense of where he is right now, or is that just too small of a sample size to really understand where he might be in his career?
No, I thought it was a good start. I mean, certainly there's room for improvement from me, from him, from all of us. But we see him every day in practice. You know, we see him on the field on Sunday. It was great to see him get a little game experience. But that's never going to be a finished product, and that's true with everybody in that locker room, coaches included. So it was a good start.
The coach talked about maximizing Kyler's skill set when he comes back. What does that mean to you?
I think playing to his strengths, the things he's done well in his career, the things that make him a dynamic player. You know, certainly we've seen a lot of that from the mobility, from the arm talent, from the vision. I mean, all of it. He's a very complete quarterback. So, you know, building around that and building around what he's comfortable doing and making sure that he's ready to do it on Sunday is a big part of making sure he's ready to go.
Deep ball is a big part of his game. How much do you hope you get that out of him whenever he's out there?
I hope they're completed every time he throws them.
You said something yesterday kind of that made me think, you know, what kind of limit might be on Kyler as far as running maybe right out of the gate. I mean, we know what he can do with his legs, but will that look different in his first one back?
I would ultimately no. I mean, he's healthy. He's ready to go. We're going to put him in a position to be successful. I think that's always the nature when you have a franchise quarterback, and you see that around the league when they are very mobile. There's an injury risk that's associated with that. So we have to manage that, as all teams with elite quarterbacks do. But he's going to do what puts us in the best position to win the game.
With the players, with him taking, as Jonathan said yesterday, the number 1 reps, is that just the practice of that with guys, with some that might be out there, some might, and it might be mixing and matching throughout the week. How will that be different, or is that just something, like you said, you go through as a team?
I think it's something you go through as a team. I mean, that happened to him last year. You know, before he was hurt, it's happened to every quarterback that I've played with. It's a really unfortunate part of this game. It is a violent game. It takes its toll. So you're used to, I think, guys being in and out of the lineup. Some guys practicing Wednesday. You know, some guys don't practice Wednesday, Thursday, practice Friday, play Sunday. So I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast a little bit.
Off of the running stuff, how will you know that he's able or willing to trust his knee?
I think a lot of that's the communication we've had over the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's been great. I mean, he's been practicing at a high level. You see him make those unscripted movements. People are around his feet. He seems very comfortable doing it. So we're not going to put him out there until he feels completely comfortable. Certainly health-wise, he's there. But as you said, there's a mental aspect of that, and that's the communication piece that's so important from him to us and back and forth.
Will there be a certain holding your breath if he's out there and the first time he does run?
Yes and no. I mean, there's always going to, anytime he runs and gets tackled, no matter what the situation from now till the end of time, I think there's always going to be like, hey, get up, he's good. You know, I think anytime you have a great player in that position, you feel that way to some extent. But no, he's so dynamic at it. He's certainly done it at a high level. So he's going to get tackled. You know, that's a fact at some point during the game. So no, I think at the end of the day, we'll be good with it.
You mentioned in the past rust, and Jonathan said yesterday what we see out of Kyler probably won't be what we'll see in X number of weeks. How should, at least out there, expectations be a little tempered in terms of what will happen on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's a big. Anytime you do something the first time you've done it, in a while, it's hard. Especially being in a new system, new teammates. It's week 10, and you're coming off an injury. You know, I think and I always look at it, and I kind of compared it last week. Look at what an offense looks like their first 10 plays in preseason 1, week 1. Week 5, week 10, it's no different with an individual player. So there's going to be some growth. There's going to be some bumps along the road. I know he's ready to handle that. Certainly we're prepared to handle that. But that's reality when you're doing something for the first time.
In your talks with him, going back to the mental part of it, can you tell us from those talks how comfortable he feels with the new him? Meaning he's a different guy now.
Yeah, I think that's the growth and development you're going to see from him throughout his career, regardless of scheme or system or teammates. I think that's just part of being a pro and getting older and starting to have more experience. He's certainly embraced that. It's been really fun to be a part of it because he's worked so hard at it and because he's asking great questions and because he's really engaged. So it's been fun and certainly would expect that to continue as he hits the field.
How much input will he have on what you guys run on Sunday if he plays? And have you guys already sat down and tried to map out, like, this is what he likes, this is what you like, how to mesh them together?
Absolutely, and that's the conversation that we've had with every quarterback that will ever play here. I think it's a really important conversation. Certainly, I want to call the game to attack the defense and get the guy in our ball in the balls in the right player's hands. But the quarterback's the one that obviously is doing that and has the ball in his hands. So for me to say, hey, you're going to run this, this, and this, I don't care what you think about it, is negligent. So there's an ongoing back and forth of, hey, do you see this the same way I do? How do we feel about this? How do we do that? That's a constant give and take with any quarterback, and certainly, someone who's done it at that level and sees the game the way he does. That's a very big part of it on so many different levels. So that will continue.
How much will James Conner help this offense if you get him back this week?
Yeah, whenever James is back, I think you saw what he could bring to the offense and bring to the team. So, whenever he's healthy, really excited to get him back out there. He's violent. He plays with a presence. He plays with an attitude. He's also a great teammate. So, looking forward to that whenever it happens.
Watching the tape, how did you think that Carter O'Donnell did coming in at right guard?
Yeah, good. It's a hard front. It's a dynamic front, really well coached group. They were playing really hard. He didn't miss a beat. Jumped in there. You never know when you're going to have to play. So he jumped right in there, played, 15, 20 snaps, and certainly showed some things. It was, as we talked about with Clayton and all those guys, might have become his first NFL game reps, and it was great to get that experience and learn from it and take something from it moving forward.
When you are scouting Atlanta's defense, is there any sort of advantage knowing that they did just play Josh Dobbs and knowing what Josh Dobbs kind of brings to the table, what he likes, and that this game was kind of just natural ability for him? Is there any sort of advantage with that?
Yes and no. He's certainly a different system, different teammates. I could talk to a couple of those guys. Hey, but at the end of the day, it's a different offense. It's a different scheme. Was really excited for him and just how it ended. Texted him right after the game. Was fired up for him. So, but at the end of the day, no. It's going to be more about what we see on tape and who we have and what we want to accomplish.
What's the best case scenario for Kyler on Sunday and kind of the rest of the season?
No incomplete passes and 5 to 8 touchdowns a game. No, I think the big thing is just going to be clean from an operation standpoint of decision making in and out of the huddle, communication with me, communication with his teammates, making sure that his feet are comfortable, his eyes are in the right place, and the ball is going where it needs to go. I think that's going to be a big part of getting his feet back under him as he starts to play at full speed again.
Back to Carter, when he came here, are you aware of Clayton, who had been with him in Indianapolis, was a big part of saying, hey, we think this guy has some potential?
Yeah, and it's those conversations with Monty, with Clayton, and kind of the entire organization from a roster standpoint of, hey, here are the guys who might be available to come in and help us. What do we think about them? Do we have any character background, any experience with them? Whether it's O-line or any other position, that's a big part of the type of person we bring into this building. I think is very important as we try to build a culture.
Do you guys feel comfortable with Kyler in that quarterback sneak play that you guys have run all season long?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if it's the right play to call and he's comfortable with it, we're going to certainly go out and execute it. There's no doubt about it.
Are you comfortable with him going under center a lot, or would you go to his strengths, which is Ben's shotgun?
Yeah, I would say he's been in the shotgun, but I wouldn't say under center is not a strength of his, if that makes sense. He was in an offense that didn't put him under center by nature of the scheme, but I don't think it was any limitation to his ability. So I have no fear of putting him under center. I'm not going to tell you we're going to be 80, 90, 100% of the time, but he could be under center the first snap of the game, and I wouldn't hesitate.
What the Falcons' defense is a bit underrated. I think they're 6th overall, but they can bring some elements to their game. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good defense. I think they made a conscious effort in the offseason to bring in some guys to fill some holes that you see playing at a really high level at really multiple positions, on top of having a premier corner, new defensive coordinator, a new scheme that I think has given them a fresh attitude. So it's going to be a challenge. I think they do a lot of things well, and as you said, they are playing at a high level this year and keeping them, the reason they're winning a lot of games.
How different is the offense going to look under Kyler than it did last?
I didn't hear the beginning of that.
How different will the offense look with Kyler on the field compared to what it looked like the first 9 games?
Again, it'd be hard for me to guarantee an answer to that because I think a lot of it's going to be flow of the game and what he's comfortable with and the communication that we are having during the week and on game day. But at the end of the day, as we've always talked about, it has to be built around what he's comfortable doing and making sure we're putting him in a position to be himself and be successful. So that's going to be critical.
Who are the main guys that, on the Falcons defense, that you have to, quote, account for?
I'm going to get some names wrong here. I can guarantee you that. I'm better with numbers. But the corner 24 is a phenomenal player. Arguably one of the best corners in the league. You know, Jeremy Bates, who I thought I got away from when he left the Bengals, I now had to see again. So that's a little bit frustrating. You know, and obviously they have a number of players up front. Bud Dupree was in Pittsburgh. It's like I'm playing the whole division again. Is kind of what it feels like. But it's a really dynamic group. I think they do present a lot of problems from a personnel standpoint.
Who's the backup right guard at the moment?
Well, we don't know who's healthy. No, that's such a hard question to answer. I think it's something like anything. Those guys are always competing for reps, and a lot of that gets sorted out in practice during the week of, hey, if you're the starter, you're in there getting the reps with the ones. Everybody else is getting full-speed reps with the twos on the scout team, and we're evaluating all those reps from hey, how's your technique? How's your fundamentals? Are you communicating well? To make sure that the next guy in the game we feel like gives us the best chance to win the game. So that's a role that's constantly in flux, like a lot of the roles, as you've seen throughout the year.
Kramer's a center, the guy you claimed off waivers, but can he be a guard if you need him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a smart player. You know, certainly get to know him more as he gets in the building here this week. But those guys that are really high intellectually can generally jump in at a lot of different spots and play if they need to.
How much credit should Izzy get for getting Kyler ready to this point?
He's the quarterback coach. I mean, they have a really strong relationship. You know, certainly he's done a great job of getting up to speed and managing his time, as we talked about, finding extra time to do a walkthrough or do a meeting or watch some tape. It's huge. I mean, it's a big part of getting him ready to play, and certainly not something I could have done myself. I mean, I would say most of it is him.
Are there plays that you've had kind of tabled in awaiting Kyler's return that you can't wait to unleash?
Yes and no. I think there's if it's something that he does better than the other guys, there's certainly like, hey, I like this play. I'm going to wait till he's there because it fits his skill set better. But I wouldn't say there's anything that we held that we said, hey, we're just going to do this when he gets back, even though it might be good now. I think at the end of the day, every play we call, we're hoping to be successful. Certainly there's things that he just does at a high level that maybe didn't fit a different player, or they don't like it as much, that when he's out there, we're going to let go.
Are you optimistic about Amari and Michael Wilson being available?
I think it's something we're going to work through during the week. If I was a trainer, I would have a significantly better answer for that, but they don't have to do press conferences. But no, it's obviously when those guys we're not going to put them out there until they're physically ready. I mean, that's the priority. But excited to get those guys back whenever that time comes.
How far have Tristan, I know he's hurt now, but Tristan and Carter have come since they got here, both on waivers, and whom had to obviously learn on the fly.
Yeah, and kind of like the guy we just talked about, both guys we knew were bringing in someone who could handle it mentally. So they jumped right in. I thought the coaches did a great job, Chris and Clayton, of getting those guys ready, similar to the way we talked about Israel. It's a limited amount of time. You got to find extra time to meet with them, to make sure they know what's going on, to show them the different looks, managing the reps throughout the week so that if they are called in to do, they know exactly what to do. And I think that showed up, which is good to see.
What do you tell your guys after a game like that where whatever you guys were going to be able to do probably wasn't going to turn out to be enough?
Yeah, we were focused on we could have played better in a lot of different ways, and whether you come out with a win or a loss, you focus on things that you did good and you reinforce that, and you make sure you keep doing that stuff at a high level, and then the things you got to get better at, you got to improve on. So win-loss, like that's how we approach it Mondays. And then, going throughout the week, those things that we have to improve on have to show up. They have to get emphasized. They have to be drilled, all of that. So, the approach on Monday, the process, that really doesn't ever change.
What do you think about this defensive line? They've had a couple of downs, but for the most part, they've been really consistent all year long. Like, what can you think about kind of their overall play this year?
Yeah, I mean, they are high motor, violent dudes in the box, and a lot of times we put them in a light box because we know that those guys can win at the point of attack, and that's something that we've gone against two really good run games past 2 weeks and two really good O-line and good O-line coaches, and I challenge those guys to, when you get one-on-ones, be able to win not just your gap but your secondary gap, and I thought they did a great job of that. I kind of challenged them to go even further and say, hey, every play has to look like these, because there was a lot of clips where you'd say, hey, guys, this is a teach clip. This is how it needs to look. I challenge you to do that all the time. So, I'm excited to where a lot of there's been some great improvement in that room over the course of the season. And I'm challenging those guys to continue with that improvement and just play at a high level all the time and really just be an anchor in the middle of the defense. Because if you can, stop the run with the defensive line, that takes stress off a lot of the other players on the field and allows you to do some other things, donate numbers elsewhere.
You guys have been really good at tackles for losses almost every game, 5 to 6 to 7. That's kind of great. Can you talk about the importance of those TFLs and maybe how are they as important as sacks?
I think the importance with those is negative yardage plays on early downs, right? So a negative yardage play on first down or second down is putting people behind the sticks, and is as a defensive play caller, the playbook opens up. As an offensive play caller, it shrinks down a little bit when you're in, second and long, third and a little bit longer. So whether it's a TFL, whether it's an early down sack, early down sacks a lot of times can be more detrimental to an offense than a third down sack, because third down incompletion, third down sack is going to result in a punt, a little bit of field position change. But the difference in a first down sack or a second down sack or a TFL, put them behind the sticks, is leading to you're creating opportunity for success to get off the field within that drive. So those plays are critical. You need to generate them throughout the game to give yourself a little bit of a spark and get people behind the sticks. And then when you do get people behind the sticks, you have to take advantage of that. You can't let them get out of second and long, third and long.
When you have a play like that crazy one that hit off Dante's helmet and the catch for a touchdown, do you just write that off to dumb luck that went in their favor, or do you look at those plays and say we could have handled it better?
That one, that was a good play by Dante to get his hands up and get the deflection. I thought we were in good position and coverage, and, sometimes those bounces go your way, sometimes they don't. That one, unfortunately, didn't go our way, and, you definitely, remind the players, just reset yourself. Like that one went their way. I thought we did a good job of, executing on that play and at certain points in that drive, and let's keep up with that kind of execution. So, those plays are going to go either way at times. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way on that one, but either way, whether there's a correction to make or not, reset, next play.
When you can use a white box up front, what does that allow you to do elsewhere?
Yeah, it allows you to dedicate more into the pass game, straight up. There's time and places for it, but when you can do that, at times you add more stress on the quarterback, the play caller, whatever that is, to take away what you want in the pass game when you can, win one-on-ones up front.
You guys are finally getting full strength at safety and at nickel with Garrett, Buda, and JT. What have you seen from them, and where do you envision those positions going forward?
Yeah, those three are playing at a high level right now. I think they are playing good together, and we got to continue to, really as a whole defense and as a back seven, continue to create that continuity between each other with the communication, making checks, all getting on the same page. So the more that you can get guys playing together consistently in practice, in the games, the more that they're comfortable out there with each other, whether or not, you feel like, hey, this is very clear on what we want to get done. There's something to guys being out there next to each other and hearing it from each other and over again. So, the more those guys can play together, you mentioned those three at safety and nickel, the more that they'll feel comfortable out there and just feels it's rhythmic at that point, playing with each other.
How much of an impact do they all have, certainly, against the run? You mentioned the good running team.
Yeah.
The Falcons, not the Falcons, this past week, they had a lot of carries, but not a whole lot of yards from that running game.
Yeah, those three, and I've been pleased with our tackling overall as a defense. There was a couple things we talked about as a defense that we probably could have even tackled cleaner in the game, but I would say from the middle of the defense, we do a good job of not letting the ball cross our face. We call those cup violations, where ball crosses your face and starts going down the sideline. That's when explosive runs happen. So they do a great job of keeping the cup. And there's some really good tackles. 3 makes teach clip tackles every single game, and I I marvel at it, and I think JT and Garrett, you talk about those three in the middle are also tackling really well. You don't see a lot of missed tackles. You don't see a lot of cup violations. You don't see a lot of hidden yardage, right? That's something we look for, not just making the tackle, but at contact, is there additional yards after that? And they do a good job of getting the ball down now. I think our linebackers do a good job of getting the ball down now. I think our front guys is hard to do it in the box at times because things happen so fast where you shed, and then all of a sudden the ball carrier's right there, and boom, you tackle him high, and the ball carrier's legs keep turning. There's some hidden yardage to it. Like, these guys get off blocks right now and get in position to make a tackle and cut that engine pretty fast. So, the whole center of the defense has done a good job with that.
Kyler has gotten reps against your first team defense. How has that helped you guys in the preparation process?
Yeah, I think overall, just whether it's Kyler, whether it's whoever giving us looks, when we go out there and compete every day at practice, the more that, we can compete against each other, the better it makes all of us. And so, yeah, is obviously it's very beneficial to have an elite quarterback like that, giving you looks, because he's gonna challenge you. He's gonna make great throws, and but honestly, anybody giving us those looks that are competing at a high level makes us better. And in turn, with our guys on defense who are giving the offensive guys looks, they go out there and compete their butts off every week, and I know they're making the offense better for it, and they're getting better themselves for it. So that's just kind of a mentality with how we practice.
I don't think we've seen Bijan's best at all yet, but.
Oh God, we haven't? Oh no.
I think he's.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, he's really good.
What do you have to worry about with him the most?
He's so efficient with how he plays the game. When he whether it's an outside zone play or it's an inside run like a duo or something like that, there's no wasted space with those creases that he finds. And so he hugs those blocks tight, on top of being extremely explosive. He can accelerate fast, so he can start to stop his momentum, find his lane. Oh, there it goes. It just opened up, and he hits it fast. And so, efficient in terms of there's no wasted space on the grass, and there's no wasted time. As soon as that thing opens, he hits it. And then when he gets rolling, he's fast, he's big, he runs violent. And so he makes the 2-yard, should have been a 2-yard gains, into 8-yard gains. And that's what scares you a little bit about him, is that he can, when you feel like you're executing at a high level, whether it's, hey, this was a great call, this was a scheme, hey, we played these blocks great, we fit this good, sometimes he can make those yards out of nothing. And so that's what makes him, honestly, a really good running back, in my opinion. And then on top of that, you give him the cup violation or whatever it is, he's going to make an explosive out of it. So he pops off the tape without a doubt. He's a talented player, but a natural runner with the football, and honestly, he can catch the ball as well. So complete player.
What's your thought on the quarterback who seems to go here, go there, but doesn't get a lot of acclaim, but just seems to play pretty solid, good football?
Yeah, I've gone against Heineke, being in that division when he was in Washington, and he's a guy that can go out and win any Sunday. Has that playmaking ability in him. You just can't teach it, but he can go out there and sling it, and he can throw the ball on time. He can hit when they scheme people up and guys are open. He knows how to get it off on time. When it's not there, he's got ability to extend plays. He can take off and run, or he can extend to throw. And that's what's really made him so dangerous, is you just don't know when an explosive play can happen with him because of his ability to extend or his ability to throw on time. So you got to bring your A game going against Taylor Heineke. I think he's a good player. 2 years against him in that division, and he always brought it. So good player, and you got to be able to prepare for him extending plays and making plays down the field.
What's your approach on takeaways from this standpoint? We know how important they are, but sometimes they're just plays that happen. But if you don't have them, then obviously they can be game changing. How is that the whole coaching approach to those and with the players?
Yeah, so you got to talk about it. you have to teach it in the meeting room, and then you have to go do it on the field. And it's something we talk about in the off season. It's something that we have very detailed out. It's something that we talk about on a week-to-week basis with our opponent, about where our opportunities to take the ball away with, forcing fumbles or interceptions, strip sacks, all of that. And then you got to be able to go out there and practice and do it. And so the thing that I appreciate about with JG and really Drew as well, because the offensive coaches, this isn't necessarily the norm, is we are allowed to strip at the football during practice. And so those running backs and receivers, not the quarterback, take a lot of punches on the ball. Yeah, no stripping the quarterback. They take a lot of punches on the ball, allow us to work our technique. Because if you can't work that technique throughout the week, it's hard to go out there and replicate. And then, once you work it throughout the week, it's got to go show up in the game, and it's got to be on your mind, right? It's got to be on the player's mind, and that's why you got to talk about it over and over again. Is sometimes takeaways, they'll come to you, you're in the right spot, cool, but you got to go out there and generate them. And so you got to hunt that football. Yeah. Go ahead.
Arthur Smith said he shaved his mustache at 3:45 as a turnover cleanse. Are you going to do anything to kind of combat that superstition?
I'm gonna keep my beard. I don't think I'm a good clean shaved look. I'll look a little too young, I think. And I think my wife, she might leave me if I went clean shave. So
Would you be allowed to strip in practice when you work for an offensive-minded coach, you think?
yeah, did it with Nick Sirianni. So that was awesome to see an offensive coach do it, because he knew it made his offensive players better. And that's what JG knows. It's not just for the defensive players, it's for the offensive players, ball security. Because if you don't feel any of those strip attempts in practice, you get, lax with the football, and then all of a sudden you get in the game, and all of a sudden people are coming after it. So that's a big part of, you said it, the takeaway battle is a winning statistic, and you got to work it as a team.
Jeff, there was a play early in the game where Greg could have received the punt. It looked like the sun got in his eyes. Like, how do you guys kind of deal with that kind of thing, where you certainly would have liked to see him probably field it, but you also don't want him taking a risk when there could be the sun messing with him being able to catch it and everything. How do you kind of handle that as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he just didn't see it off the foot, and he's trying to find it, and never really did until it was too late. Fortunately for them, the ball rolls, right, and rolls to the 1 yard line. You've seen plenty of those things. Ball hits and goes back the other way. It's unfortunate for us, but you'd like to field everything that we can in that situation. But giving the ball back to the offense is the number one goal. Hopefully not at the 1 yard line anymore, but stuff like that happens.
Was it nice to get Greg back after having him out a couple?
Yeah, I mean, he usually does a good job with everything we're asking him to do, and kind of stayed with the game plan. Last week had a couple of returns that were productive, and I thought he played pretty decent that last week.
What have you seen from Blake's progression so far throughout the 4 or 5 weeks he's been here?
I think he's improved. Statistically had one of his better games last week. Still working through the familiarity with how everything works and plays out, and we're talking through things. There's things that he wants to do better. There's things I want him to do better, or maybe not better. That's not the right word. Different, like the point of emphasis where he's punted probably more from our side of the 50 than what he did in New Orleans. Not as many plus 50 punts in the last couple games, but all that stuff kind of as it happens and as it unfolds, there's things that we may ask him to adjust something, or there's something he may come to us and say, can we play it like this, or what do you think about this style of punt?
You guys have had some really good moments at times this year, your side of the game. How nice would it be to have one of your better efforts when Kyler comes back to help transition everything better?
Yeah, I mean, you always hope you play well, regardless of circumstance, what the game is, time is, record is, all those things. There's some guys individually who have improved, and I think collectively that has shown up a little bit. There's some things we need to do better, and the more often that we can play well, the more it's going to help our team, and field position certainly factors in to winning and losing. So if it happens to happen when Kyler comes back, I'd be all for it.
There were a couple times I noticed where their gunners kind of had a free route to you guys, to the returner. And it looked like because whoever was on the other side of them kind of was teasing, maybe trying to get into the block or whatnot. Is that by design, or was that kind of not supposed to happen?
Yeah, there's one play where what you just described happened, and it's the exact same play in which Greg lost it in the sun. So it was unfortunate from all aspects. That we did some movement things last week and presented that team with a different look than they've seen. Yeah, by design, you're never trying to just let those guys run free. But if you go back and look at that play, that punter almost gets hit in the face with the snap. Because when we fired our corners out there, he looked out, and all of a sudden the ball basically hit him in the chest. He got it out late. I mean, it goes from this ball if it's off target, I mean, the heck of a snapper that they have, it's right here. But if it was off at all, I don't know that guy ever sees it. You do those things to distract and give people different looks and have them prepare for things. And, I don't ever put stuff in the game plan that says, boy, I hope they see this 3 weeks from now, and hope that, you're going for whatever that moment calls for. We hadn't put anything like that on tape in a while. But yeah, I mean, there's a trade-off. The more people that you rush, the less people you can have hold up their gunners.
So is the risk in that play that the guy just doesn't get back to the gunner in time and he has a kind of open?
That's one of the risks. I mean, they could also raise up and throw it. That's probably a bigger risk. And you calculate that stuff with what you're anticipating seeing and kind of what the team has done in the past. We hadn't done that, and we're trying to do some things to kind of make a play here and there, and thought it was worth the risk, and all those other things happened, and the offense got the ball back, but it wasn't great.
I know I asked last week about certain guys playing a lot of this percentage of snaps. I think Sunday there were 3 that played every one.
Right.
Was that as much of a product of there were no field goal attempts or extra points?
Yes, because all those guys continue to have the same role. So it wasn't that they played more, it was there weren't those other plays to make that percentage drop. Like, I think we've had some games where guys have played as many plays as what those guys did. But yeah, that was a result of the field goal thing.
Is there, I know you've got a veteran operation with Aaron and Prater and Gillikin at this point, and I know they get chances to practice in during the week. Is there any part of you, I mean, you want the points that would come with field goals and extra points, but aside from that, is there any part of you that's kind of like, man, I wish we would have gotten a chance to work on the operation in a game situation a couple of times that we just didn't get this week?
No, not really. I mean, the more that your field goal extra point team is on the field, the better. And we don't usually control that. Obviously, with the kicking game, we can score. We can have plays that result in points, but you don't feel like, man, that was a missed opportunity. We're going to have to play in outdoor conditions again here in a couple weeks. So, yeah, you'd like to get some of that game experience, but I don't really feel like, man, we missed an opportunity because we didn't get it done in the game there.
I think Blake had 9 punts. How many punts have you seen from a player in one game?
Boy, that's a question now. I know. I mean, Andy Lee, his rookie year, maybe 108 for the season. There was like a 112 or a 130. You guys can go back and look at it, but I've certainly seen 9 in a game, and I don't know what the most I've punted a game, but I would say I'd set the over-under at 12.5. Yeah, feel free.